When there's something strange and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. 1984 Ghostbusters review here, as promised. Um, it's a fantastic film. You've got Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, and Ivan Reitman as the four Ghostbusters. They're great. They're absolutely fantastic. They are famous for these roles, and it's pushed them into the stardom. I feel, obviously, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ivan Reitman had done films before that. Um, you know, I think for me, it's probably the most recognisable film for them back in the 80s, especially the most popular. I feel um, it's a great film. There's not really much to say about it. It's a great film. Um, 10 out of 10 in my books. Now, it starts off really, really quite quickly. Within the first 10 minutes, you kind of get a set of the scene already. It's about ghosts. It's going to be funny. It's going to be family friendly to a degree. And it's not a horror film. It's done really well in regards to the I wouldn't say the IP, but the situation and the subject matter is handled really well, to a point where it doesn't dive deep into what ghosts are, what they do. They're just a menace, and they need to be caught. They need to be busted. Um, like I said, it coming out in 1984, still holds up today. Nearly 40 years ago, it came out, and people still reference it. If someone says to you, "Who you gonna call?" You'll always reply Ghostbusters. It's just one of them universal catchphrases, I'd say, that's kind of caught on, and to be honest with you, it hasn't really gone anywhere. It's stayed around, it's stuck around, and obviously it's led to so many IPs out there in other subjects: comic books, films, TV series, games, board games. There's a new game coming out, Ghostbusters, uh, first person, 4 player, catching ghosts. Nearly 40 years later, it's still being remembered, and it's still got life in it. The reason why it takes particular um, well, it's got a particular place in my heart, is just due to the fact of it's all set up really, really well in regards to it's dealt with really well. It's not too scary. It's not horror. It's comical. It's got a family adventure about it. It really holds up to today in regards to story and to character development. Um, and every single Ghostbusters after it has been compared to the original, and I think that's with most films. But there was something magical about that first iteration. No one's ever seen it before, and it kind of it spawned an era of, I wouldn't say cheesy, but very goofy 80s films, to come after that. Um, as it did so well, it was so successful, and it kind of found a really good audience that kind of accepted it and embraced it, and it's still loved and adored to today. You know, just a bit of a heads up in regards to spoiler alert. It's about 4 Ghostbusters that go around the town of New York City busting ghosts. One of the Ghostbusters, Venkman, played by Bill Murray, falls in love with Dana Barrett, who is played by Sigourney Weaver. They have a really good, intimate relationship that kind of grows through the course of the film. Being their first client, they kind of put really a lot of effort into her, into keeping her, especially Venkman, as he slowly falls in love with her. She becomes possessed. They have to do something about it. Rick Moranis, plays Sigourney Weaver's next door neighbor. Um, he becomes possessed. I think the reason why it also plays a special place in my heart is it's one of very few Rick Moranis films he ever starred in. He did do others, as you probably well know: Little Shop of Horrors, Spaceballs, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and he's done a few others as well. But they're kind of the main ones he's known for. Unfortunately, when his wife passed away, he stopped making movies. So I think that's why it really resonates with me. It's probably one of the only and few films that I enjoyed of his. that he's ever done. With that said, obviously there's been Spawn and sequels after that, and they've all been fairly decently received. We won't talk about the 2016 Ghostbusters as it is the worst of the four. I will be doing reviews on the other Ghostbusters later on down the line, but I wanted to kind of give you an overall rating for the Ghostbusters film, the 1984 version, the one I'm reviewing now. It is a 9 out of 10 for me. The reason being is just due to the fact that it still resonates today, it still holds up today. Um, while there isn't any subject matter that is relevant, it is fun. It is especially funny in regards to the comical humour delivered mainly by Bill Murray, but others as well. It's got a great sense of adventure about it, and it's just shot, directed, and just done with such care and attention. And probably one of my most favourite films of all time. Definitely sits in my top 20. With that said, the reason why it's not had a full 10 out of 10 from me is because it has dated a little bit. I've personally not seen the 4K restoration on the 30th anniversary that came out a little while back. I'm still yet to see it crystal clear, but obviously you can watch it on the streaming platforms such as Netflix and Amazon Prime. There is other ways of watching it, DVD obviously and video. I've watched it hundreds of times, and I don't think it's ever got to a point where I've been bored. I could watch it again and again and again without hesitation. It's a really feel-good film as well. It ends well, and I think it's just that real sweet spot of comedy, action, adventure, and it doesn't drag on too long. It's not over too quick. It starts well. The middle is interesting. It's got. I think Steven Spielberg said it best when he was talking about Jurassic Park. Again, another fantastic film. It's got enough science in it to not be too sciencey, and it's got not too much adventure to be too adventure-y and silly, if that makes sense. It's got that really well balance of comedy, adventure, and fantasy that just mixes really well for a family film. And yet again, just want to reiterate, it's not going to be for your 4, 5, 6 year olds. I'd say pre-teens and above. It is a PG, but it's a great film, and I couldn't fault it in any way. It's going to always stay in my collection, and I'd recommend you all to go and see it. There are obviously little caveats. The second one, while amazing and has the same cast, didn't come off as strong as the first. But again, I will save that for another review at another time. If you do want to see a review of the second one and the third one, and I'd say the 2016 soft reboot, please let me know. Mention that in the comments below. But with that said, thank you for your time. As always, stay safe, have fun, and try not to game alone.